Yes, I want to tell you something about Arthurian legend today. We started off with the Ride of the Valkyries, the music. I mentioned Beowulf, and I mentioned the great Teutonic knights and the knights of legend. But Arturus and Rex, they were both actually about the same time, about the 8th and 9th century. Arthur was probably a Welsh guerrilla fighter who helped cast out the Romans, what were left of them at the time, in England, and then England was attacked by the Vikings and Anglo-Saxons about the same time. He may have even fought against them, but we do have these wonderful stories of King Arthur at the Round Table and Camelot, which I want to tell you about. I really believe that you need to hear about King Arthur. So I'm going to tell you a story. This is from King Arthur. It was his he had no son except Modred. It was a very strange generation that he was tricked into having with Morgana Le Fay when she disguised herself as Guinevere, and that was his son who killed him at the end down in Hastings. But that's the end of the story. His heir to everything was Gawain, who was known as the most perfect knight, Sir Gawain. We have Gawain and the Green Knight, that whole story that began the ideal of the garter and the ideal of knighthood, that you must always serve your lady fair and wear her colors. Well, this story is called The Wedding of Sir Gawain and Lady Ragnell, or she was also called The Loathsome Dam. The story is a wonderful, wonderful example of what Eleanor of Aquitaine later, in her Courts of Love, proposed were the ideals of the perfect knight, to serve the lady. What was it that every lady wanted? What was it that every woman desired? Sovereignty, to rule, to be the person in charge. Putting it bluntly, one day King Arthur, he was out hunting in Inglewood Forest with his men, and suddenly, in the distance, a deer stepped into view. "Hold still, everyone," said the king. "I'll stalk that deer myself." Holding his bow in one hand, his lasso over his shoulder, the king crept upon the deer, and he slayed the deer with one shot. And as the animal fell, a tall figure stepped from the shadows. "How lucky for me that we meet this way, with your arrow released from your hand," boomed the voice of a strong and mighty knight. "King Arthur, for many a year you have done me wrong. Now it is time for me to quiet you." "Sir Gromer," said King Arthur. Gromer Somer Jur was his name, which means nasty summer day, or angry summer day. "Sir Gromer," said King Arthur, and he thought to himself, I meet my old enemy here in the woods with no weapon to defend myself. Where are my men? Thinking quickly, the king said, "To slay me here, armed as you are, and I clothed but in my greens, would bring you no honor. All the knights they'll refuse to sit by you, and shame will follow you evermore, and I'll grant you anything, name it, land or gold, if you spare my life." "There is no land or gold that I desire," said Sir Gromer Somer Jur. "However, I will get what I seek in an honorable way. I'll give you a chance to solve a riddle. 1 year and 1 day from now, you must appear before me here in the woods as you are, without friends to come with you, and with no weapon. If at that time you are unable to solve this riddle, no man will object that I take your life. But if you answer the riddle correctly, there will be no battle. You must swear on your honor that you will return in 1 year and a day, as I have said." "Lo, I agree," said the king. "What is the riddle?" "You must tell me what it is that women desire most above all else," said Gromer. "I assure you," said King Arthur, "as I am the true king, that I will come again in 1 year and a day and bring you the answer that you seek." And so Sir Gromer left. The king blew his bugle, and his hunting companions found him with the slain deer at his feet. Yet, instead than finding their ruler in good spirits as they would expect, his companions saw heaviness in their king's face. They realized some trouble must have come about, but when they asked him what could be the matter, he did not say, only to his nephew, that gentle knight, Sir Gawain, did King Arthur share what had really taken place. "Sir, be of good cheer," said the youthful knight. after he heard full through the curious demand of Sir Gromer. "Let's ready your horse. Together we will ride through country after country. Wherever we go, we'll ask every man and woman for the correct answer. We are bound to find it before long." So the king and his nephew Sir Gawain rode away. Everywhere they inquired, "What is it that women desire above all else? What do women most desire?" All the people who answered were certain their answer was correct, yet each answer was different. Some said women loved best to be well adorned. Others said they wanted a life free of scorn. Some said women want a husband who is handsome and strong. Others said they want a man who will not prove them wrong. And so King Arthur and Sir Gawain collected many an answer, yet none that seemed right. They returned home, back to Camelot, to sort it all out, and only a month remained. King Arthur decided to return to the forest, to Inglewood, and perhaps he could make sense of it there. While riding his royal horse along a royal trail, as foul a lady as King Arthur or anyone had ever seen rode up to them. She was covered with gold and many a precious stone, but that could not cover her red face, runny nose, mouth that was entirely too wide, teeth that were yellow and hanging. Her eyes were bleary, her neck too long, and she was shaped like a barrel. And that's only the beginning of the description. She was covered with sores, but she was dressed in scarlet and jewels. "Good day, King Arthur," said she. "Think of me what you will, but your life is in my hands." "What do you mean?" said the king. "Of all the answers you have been told," said the loathsome lady, "none of them will help you. Only I know the correct answer. Grant me but one thing, Sir King, and I shall tell it to you. But if not, you will face Sir Gromer, and no doubt you shall lose your head." "You know Sir Gromer?" said King Arthur. "He is known," said the vile lady, "and he has bragged to many that he has you all but conquered. What Sir Gromer does not know, however, is that I, and only I, have the answer that you seek." "Tell me the one thing you seek from me," said the king. "If I can grant it, I shall." "Very well," said she. "There is a certain knight I wish to wed. His name is Sir Gawain. Either I marry the knight Sir Gawain, or you must lose your head." "Alas," and of course he would have said alack and zounds, the king thought to himself, "Woe is me that I should cause Gawain, my dear own nephew, to thus be wed." He said aloud, "Then we must part, lady. But do tell me before I go, what is your name?" "Sir King, I am the Lady Ragnell." And so they parted. The king returned to his castle, back to Camelot, where he found his nephew Sir Gawain. The king told him everything except the demand of the loathsome lady to marry Sir Gawain. King Arthur said instead that the Lady Ragnell would share the secret for the promise of a husband. "Was that all?" said Sir Gawain. "Then I will marry her, and marry her again, for you are my king and my liege. To save your life, my lord, I will do whatever I can, or I would be false and a great coward." Well, he hasn't seen her yet, but anyway, with the promise of his nephew, and since the next day was the very day the king was to meet Sir Gromer in the woods, the king rode with haste to the forest of Inglewood, to that spot where he had met the Lady Ragnell before. But what if she wasn't there? He worried. Then the loathsome lady rode up to him. The king told her that her request would be granted, and she could marry the knight Sir Gawain. "Therefore, tell me now, quickly, my lady, the answer to the riddle." "Sir, my king," said Lady Ragnell, "now you will know what it is that women desire above all else. Some men say we desire to be beautiful, or that we desire attentions from many men, or that we desire to be married well. Thus, those men do not know the truth. What we desire above all else is to have sovereignty, and medieval English, sovereignty, to rule our lives as we see fit, to not be beholden to another. Go forth, Sir King, go now, Your life is assured. The king rode as fast as he could to the spot where he had met Sir Gromer. He started by giving one of the answers he'd been given earlier, then another and another and yet another. To each one, Sir Gromer shook his head with glee. Nay, nay, said Sir Gromer. You are as good as a dead man. Prepare to bleed. Abide, Sir Gromer, King Arthur said. I have one answer left. Very well then, said Sir Gromer, or else so help me, your death will be upon you. Now here it is, said the king. Above all else, women desire sovereignty, to rule their lives as they see fit. And who was it that told you this? Roared Sir Gromer. No doubt it was my sister, the Lady Ragnell. May she burn on a fire. Yet now I am compelled to release you. So go. Farewell, said King Arthur, and he quickly turned around his horse. Then he sped to the Lady Ragnell. He must bring her back to his castle for the wedding, back to Camelot. Yet so unpleasant was the prospect of holding a public wedding with such a bride that he told her the ceremony would take place in the morning, knowing that meant there would be very few guests, or perhaps even none at all to attend, and his nephew Sir Gawain would not have to suffer the public humiliation, embarrassment of wedding such a loathsome dam. But this the Lady Ragnell would not allow. Nay, Sir King, said she firmly, openly I must be wed, with a full wedding feast for dinner and guests aplenty in attendance. After the wedding ceremony, when all were gathered for the wedding feast, and Lady Ragnell carefully watched her groom, was he disgusted by her? Would he turn his back and ignore her? Strangely, this he did not do. The knight behaved as if he cherished his hideous bride. And there's often a description, I'm going to take it, sort of a footnote here, of her in other stories about how she would slam hands full of potatoes and birds into her mouth, and that she farted and belched, and was just disgusting in her habits, although she was still dressed in scarlet and jewels. By the way, only members of the aristocracy, according to the sumpray laws, could wear scarlet or purple, royal purple. But anyway, he had behaved like a perfect knight, and as if he cherished his hideous bride. After all this, that night, in their wedding chambers, the Lady Ragnell said, Sir Gawain, now that we have wed, give me a kiss. If I were young and beautiful, you know very well you would not delay. I urge you to do this right now. Sir Gawain said, I will at once, that and more. As he sped around to kiss his bride, he saw before him not the loathsome lady he'd married, but the fairest creature he ever had seen. Aye, he cried out, what magic is this? Are you a witch? I am your wife, said she, that and securely. Ah, lady, then I must not be in my right mind, said the confused Sir Gawain. Pardon me for saying so earlier today. You were the foulest sight a man ever did see, and now it seems none is more fortunate than I to have you as my bride. And he rushed into her arms, giving her many, many kisses. Sir, said she, pulling away for a moment, there is more that you must know. Several years ago, I was deformed by enchantment by my brother, the terrible Sir Gromer, and by the sister, half-sister of Arthur. And you know that she is, well, Morgana Le Fay. The way you see me now, this appearance cannot stay. You have a choice. You need to choose whether you will have me in my natural form, as you see me now, beautiful, by night, or hideous, as you have seen me before, by day. Or have me in my natural form by day, beautiful, radiant, or hideous at night. This is, of course, the curse of Morgana Le Fay and Sir Gromer Somerjour. With the enchantment by these two evildoers, it cannot be both. What do you choose? Alas, said Gawain, the choice is hard. To be with you as you are now at night, but not anymore, that would grieve my heart right sore. But if by day you were as you seem now, then the nights would be hard. So I must put the choice into your own hands. Whatever you choose as your husband, that choice will be mine as well. Mercy, courteous knight, of all earthly knights, I am truly, truly lucky that you are the one who ended up as my husband, for now the evil enchantment is released completely. I can stay in my natural form, beautiful and radiant both day and night, for the only thing that could release me from Gromer and Morgana Le Fay's spell was if a husband granted me of his own free will sovereignty to choose what I wish for myself. And so now, Sir Knight, courteous, chivalric Gawain, you have done just that. You have granted me sovereignty, that which every woman wants above all else. Kiss me, Sir Knight. Aye, said Sir Gawain, that I am glad to do. And so the Lady Ragnell could stay in her natural form, beautiful and radiant both day and night, and she and Sir Gawain, the nephew of King Arthur, lived happily ever after. And in some of the other Arthurian legends, it is that they had a child, and that she went to live far away in the forests of Wales, and that child was named Percival. And Percival, she wanted never to be a knight until he did see some knights, and he thought they were angels, and he said, Mother, I must go and become a knight. And she gave her blessings, and he did. And he's one of the people who found the Holy Grail. Well, let's have some music, folks, and segue on out today from this time. Here we go. Here we go. And adios for another day from Big Ben and Company.